Hello and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Andersen.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones and let's get started.
Welcome, everyone. Good to see you all today.
Hey.
Yeah. Great. As always.
Everybody's here, my God. Look at that.
Yeah. Lots of great folks. Hi, Carl Lieberman. Hi, Dave Skolnick. Hi, Nancy Salmon. Donna Burke. I'm like picking out people's names that I recognize, but now it's like everybody at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't. Yeah.
All the names.
Cool. Yeah.
This is
very nice.
This is just an extension of the beauty of the various forums on the internet.
Right.
One step further, because you can actually see people. And in another year, Zoom or something like it will have HD audio available, and we can start doing, real classes where you really hear stuff on here, which is exciting, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, pretty close.
That's
pretty close.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Shall I give a little introduction here and then we'll get started?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So first off, just remind you all, Piano Tech Radio Hour is being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at www.pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And of course, in the meanwhile, before we can even get that audio through Zoom, you can check out our masterclass library where we have created some wonderful content that has some excellent audio. Particularly, I think of David's masterclass on tuning, which we got captured some really wonderful audio of that. Probably the best audio recording of a tuning that's out there. I mean, they've got recordings from the past, but I don't know whether they were able to get them that good. So check that out.
Nowhere near.
I'll also just remind you all that you can register for the convention that's coming up in December. Later on in the chat, we'll put we're doing the Cyber Weekend thing. So over the weekend and on Monday, there'll be some specials, which I think will be pretty cool for you. And you can, just a summary, you can either get a discount, just a general discount over the weekend, or if you want to get a 10% discount, a little bit smaller discount on Monday, you can add one of our lectures from our library for free. And you could choose David Andersen's tuning concert if you want, or anything else. And finally, just a little bit of housekeeping. We have two sponsors for our convention now, and I just thought it'd be great to give them a shout out. I put a link to each of those sponsors in the chat. We have Piano Buyer, a really wonderful resource. We've had a guest from Piano Buyer on the show before, and Veritune, the tuning app from Dave Carpenter out here in Chicago, in my neck of the woods. So thanks to them, and click on those links in the chat just to go update yourself on what they're up to. We really appreciate them. All right. David, shall I tell them what I thought would be cool to talk about today, and we'll see if we go there?
Yeah, but before we do that, let's go back to the convention and just name some of the. Well, first of all, I'll talk about my class. The big, hot, sexy kind of thing in tuning over the past, let's say, 3 years or 4 years, has been pure 12s tuning. Everybody, it's kind of like the Valhalla of tuning. Oh, it's a pure 12s tuning. Oh my God. Well, that's because it is. It's a highly idealized oral tuning that these super, super smart machines are trying to replicate and doing a pretty damn good job. Pretty darn good job. I proactively apologize for my profanity and have been called on it more than once. So I'm sorry. The smart machines do a darn good job at replicating a Pure 12's tuning. And that's because it's simple. So I'm going to simply show how to do a Pure 12's tuning in this class at the first virtual piano technology conference in the history of the universe. And
Yeah, looking
then
forward to that.
name the other participants.
So what I really like about this time is that, you know, there's drawbacks to all the quarantine and, you know, safety. We have to all be careful going out there, but there's some interesting advantages, and one of those is we're being able to get a hold of some of these instructors that I've talked to for years and asked if they could participate in things. They say they're busy, things are going on, they're not sure. So Debbie Sear is one of those instructors. She's been instructing with North Bennett Street for many years. She does rebuilding and many other wonderful things. And we actually did a survey just to make sure we picked the right class topic. I put out a survey to you folks, and thank you for those that participated. And we decided that she's going to talk about tearing down a grand for rebuilding. So that had, out of 3 topics that had 50% of the votes, I think we had maybe like 40 or 50 people vote. So I think it's a pretty solid decision. Yeah, so we've got Debbie. That's exciting because she's new. She's never done one of these online classes with us before.
Wow.
Another person that is new and exciting to me is Alex Kirsten from Steingraber and Sohn. This is also a first for us, bringing in someone from overseas to beam in a class. And that's kind of my initial excitement about this whole project in the first place. We've been doing it sort of the reverse, where people that I can get in touch with from the United States are teaching people that are all the way across the other side of the globe. But this will be the first time we kind of do the reverse. We get some piano expert from Germany coming in and giving us some great knowledge from his side of the big body of water. and
So
he's going to be teaching about concert prep and part of his presentation, I don't think it's a huge part, but it was intriguing to hear about. He was going to talk about voicing from the sheep to the concert hall. He was going to talk about felts, you know, going all the way from sourcing the felt to actually putting it on the hammers and prepping it for a concert. So really excited about that. And he is too. That's another piece that I'm really just really feeling good about, is that he is extremely excited to do this presentation. And I know that's a good sign whenever we have presenters like you, David, that, you know, they're not shy, they're really excited, they want to share, they want to participate, they want to interact, then it usually comes out quite well. So I won't go on about all the others, but there's many others.
The legend of Alex. Let me just extend the legend of Alex Kirsten. This guy is, I've worked beside dozens of, well, at least a dozen of the men and women that are considered to be pretty much at the top of the food chain in our world of piano technology. Alex Kirsten is among the top 3, let's say. He started out as an apprentice, the lowest sweeping up kind of guy in the little Steingraber factory, which is a little castle in northern Germany, when he was either 15 or 16. And now he went all the way up schooling at the Hogwarts of European piano technology. I can't remember the name of the school. Came back, worked in the factory, became their concert technician for the factory and showroom, and basically all over Europe. I first met him because I was a Steingraber dealer from 2005 to 2009 and spent many hours working beside him and observing his work. And he's an amazing piano technician, and he's fluent English speaker, and he's a fabulous cat. And you can learn a ton from this guy. This guy is the real deal. The real deal. It's a 3 jillion times the piano technician I am. I'll tell you that. Just, I'm in awe of this guy. So, sorry.
Great.
I
No, thank you.
My video. Just, it's a real treat to get to know Alex through this Zoom event and his class. I wish his class was 6 hours long.
Yeah, this opens up the door for us to have him back, hopefully, too. So that's also exciting.
Yeah, baby.
Shall we transition here, David?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, here's the idea I had, folks, to ask David about today. You're totally welcome to steer us in a totally different direction. Make sure you put questions in the chat, so on and so forth. But I've been fascinated with how David can put together his rebuilding and resale shop for fine pianos. He's built a really wonderful high-end clientele. He's really known for producing excellent quality instruments, locating excellent quality instruments, and really doing the best that you can with them. And I know just from interacting with him, and I'm sure everybody else is aware, it's a complicated process, meaning there's multiple people involved. He has a special relationship with Dale Irwin, who might do soundboards for him. And there might be other people involved in the process. I don't really know. And I just wanted to ask him, kind of dive into what is it like to be someone who, as we came up with an analogy before the show, it's kind of like that person that soups up a car, and they're in charge of the process, but they might need a whole team of people in order to get that together. So I guess my first question is, what kind of team does it typically take? Are there different size teams depending on the piano?
Well, this is a fascinating topic. And it starts by saying that most of us, I'll just speak personally, I can't do everything that rebuilding a piano requires well by myself. And I can't do it at all now at this point in my life. There's many things I can't do because of my physical challenges. So a long time ago, it was necessary for me to involve other people in my restoration and rebuilding process. So I've loved the idea of teams of restorers or rebuilders and used it and prospered under it for a long time, quarter century. And what it means is that you get the best person, both in terms of dealing with them as human beings and honest, golden rule living people, and artisan craftsmanship, like a dedication to quality, right? Aren't those the two things you want? Well, they're the two things I want. So I've developed a team in my business of people that are men and women that I have grown to love and trust and have affection for, and are at the top of the food chain in terms of the quality of their craft, of how they work on pianos in the specific way that they do. And I end up being the initiator, the bringer of the client, the first diagnostician. I'm basically the producer of the restoration event. Our shop, myself and Nick Morello, do that final, you could say 10 or 15% of taking, or 20%, take the raw action and make it a concert and performance machine. Does that make sense when I say that? It's that last refining all the weights, all the front weights, all the strike weights, the refining the touch of the action, and then doing a complete action regulation, like very specific and precise, like a new Shigeru Kawai would be, or a new Steingrave, or a new Fazioli, right? That's the level, that's the world-class level. So that's the level we aspire to. Took us a while to get there, I'll tell you. It really began to sink into me that you can do this on a one-off basis when I started playing Ravenscroft's pianos, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whenever they really, my God, they're just like the greatest pianos in the world. Their actions feel the same as, Fazioli's, as the best Bosendorfers. My God, you can actually do this. Because I knew it was him and one other dude, his action maker and him, that were making these actions feel so good. It's like, wow. It's like the first time I ever played a piano that Richard Davenport had rebuilt in the late 80s or early 90s. It was a revelation. You can really restore a piano and make it feel like a tier 1 new piano if you have the chops. So
you get a minute, I got a question from the chat.
Go ahead.
So Dave Skolnick said, and he can clarify this a little bit too, or we can dive into what it means, but he said, so then, what are the preliminary steps and how are they handled? And he says the 80%. So I'm guessing he means kind of what are the really primary factors that make this possible, and especially the ones early on, to put a team together and have the piano happen.
Putting a team together means being in serious relationship with the artisans, with the piano artisans in your neighborhood, in your whatever 50-mile radius, or whatever it is, who are really good, not only really good at whatever it is. Maybe you don't do pin blocks and boards and back ends in your shop. Maybe you don't do it at all. Find the people in your area that are the best. You know them, but you got to get a relationship with them, and you got to share the work, right? You got to have the work and diagnose the work and produce the work and be responsible for the work, and then hand the jobs that you're not going to do off to those shops that do that work all the time and that do it at a very high level. Stringing, for instance, or damper systems, for instance, refinishing, I have 6 or 8 people that I use all the time, entities, shops that I use all the time for different sections of the piano. I'm right there. We are right there. My partner Nick Morello and I are right there, observing and inputting every step and kind of producing and creating the vision of how this piano is going to be rebuilt, what it needs. That's always subject to a bit of revision when we get down into the piano. There may be anomalies way down in there, and that's always reflected contractually. You'd better be covering yourself in your restoration agreement about uncovered anomalies when you get down into the heart of the piano. You have to have a really clear sense of what the piano, and this is very, like, what the piano needs. Absolutely can't function without a rebuild or a replacement part. Or whether you can, for an economic reason, because of the client's financial position, they can't. For instance, piano's on the edge. It's 50 years old, needs new parts, needs new strings, needs new damper felts, may need, depending on the weather and everything, may need a bridge cap, certainly new A-graphs, just kind of a complete back end, not a new soundboard. The board is fine, has sustain, and I'm sure, I hope, you all know how to check sustain. If you're not clear, you can check down bearing with various methods. But the main check I have now, after my years, is to pluck the strings in the 5th and 6th and 7th octaves and see what the pluck tells me. And it'll tell me the intensity and sustain of that note.
Just going to interrupt real quick. Careful with the mic fidgeting. We're getting a little mic noise.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you. I really say you diagnose the piano and the pin block, everything needs to be rebuilt, but the pin block is still their 1/0 pins, and they've got at least 100 or so pounds of torque. They've got plenty of torque. Do you change the pin block just because you're changing everything else? If it's a complete restoration, yes, you do. It's, how much is it? It's not that much more. A couple of grand max. With somebody who's rebuilding their whole piano and money is not really an object, you do it as a matter of course. For somebody who's just saved up for years to have their piano restored, and you know that it's in a stable environment like Southern California, and you know they're controlling the humidity and the piano is stable, you can leave that pin block because it's $2,000 or whatever it is, whatever you charge for a new pin block, and put it in, and doing that whole thing. You have to have that discernment. They're trusting you. You're the expert. You're the doctor, you know. And you run into clients that go on Piano World and have read Larry Fine's various publications, and they think they know something. And as so many of my great mentors have said before me, they know just enough to be dangerous. And you have to be the one. And you can't shirk that responsibility. And you have to also be a great guy, a great person, and a client serving person. You have to be the leader and the servant. Guess what? Big challenge. That's kind of the heart of success of any kind of high-end piano work. Quote, selling, unquote, any, like a day of service, 2 days of service, a partial restoration or a complete restoration. It's being a leader, telling them what this piano needs, and being the leader of your business and your craft, and being a servant, serving them to get this piano in a place that will please them and inspire them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting, and I also want to get some feedback too from folks. If this is working for you, if this is a good topic, let us know. Like if you're enjoying this, let us know. If you want to switch it or whatever, that's great. I'm really getting into it. I'm taking notes here. But that's just me. So you're out there in the audience. Let us know the direction you want to go in.
Give us a thumbs up if we're good for you.
Yeah, for sure.
We're really I'm community oriented. You good? Should I keep going?
I got a thumbs up from Kevin Clem. All right,
okay.
Sounds good. I want to ask you, like, what is a typical scenario, or is there a typical scenario? I'm imagining from what you've been talking about, it's that you have a client that you already know, or one that has been referred to you who has a piano, or is maybe looking for a piano. Which is more common? They already have a piano and they want you to do it?
Yeah, that's 20% of the time. 80% of the time is someone who has a piano. In my practice, someone that has a piano, perhaps someone that I've known for a long time, that I've maintained this piano for a while. That's often the case. All right, it's time now. And that's, again, partly this paradox of leadership and servitude that I'm talking about. You have to tell your client, well in advance, look, something's going to come up with your piano in the next 5 years, or the next 10 years or something. You're going to need some restoration. You're going to need some new parts. It's that time. Piano's 65 years old. It's got thousands of hours of use. You can see the use on the strike points of the hammers. You can just kind of feel it. It's a little wobbly. It needs some work other than tuning. So heads up, Then there's people that, are looking to get their piano rebuilt. A lot of people that call me are kids that, adults from 30s to 60s that played piano when they were a kid, may still have their family piano or have a piano that they've had for a while, and now they want to get back. They're just their brain is on their piano, and they want to trick their piano out a little bit and start to play it. And that's a good client for me, because they've looked around, they've talked to maybe other shops. They've looked on the internet. They've seen my website, which is pretty impressive actually for a private company's website. And they've called me. And there's from the beginning, because one of my gifts and a craft that I practice is when I'm on the phone with a possible client, with somebody that called me to maybe have us do some work for them, I can shift my attention, my awareness from whatever it was on right before the call started. Maybe I was arguing with somebody, or maybe I was in some completely other headspace. I have taught myself how to shift into this a grateful, open place to be with this person, because that's what people need and want. They want you to be open. They want you to be happy to talk to them. And that's how I am when I talk to these people. And that's a huge benefit to me and why I get a lot of work, because people feel comfortable talking to me. It's a huge part of this business. And I really want to express that with anything. So then we go through, and I never make any kind of money statements ever until I see the piano. That's a hard and fast. Don't give them ranges. Don't do anything like that. Say, I can't say anything until I put my hands and my eyes and my ears on the piano. And if you trust me enough to let me come into your house and do that and tell you what I feel, that's great. And then you do. You go in there. And I usually bring Nick Morello, my partner, with me, because, as somebody said to me a long time ago, in certain things, 1 and 1 doesn't make 2, it makes 11. You know, 2 ears are way more than twice as good as 1. Two artisan sensibilities, I find. So we go in, and I mean, I did it myself for decades. I like to do it with another, intelligent craftsperson. And you very quickly see what's wrong with the piano, what it needs. And I hope that whoever the check writer is, whoever the owner of the piano is right there. So you can show and tell. You can be artisans, and this person will see, wow, these guys really know what they're doing.
Quick
And you
question
can
about that
tell them.
process of evaluating.
Yep.
Is it I'm getting the sense that it isn't, but do you have like almost like a checklist or protocol you go through, or is it just unique to each piano? You look it over and you kind of go into what seems. Do you take notes while you're doing that? Do you guys hold this stuff in your memory? How complicated is it to kind of do the diagnostic?
What I do as, I don't look at a list because I've kind of embodied it. But there's all these points that you look at, just like in a car, just like when a master mechanic rolls up to a car on one of these car shows and starts looking at it. They're not working off a checklist. They know the different parts of a car that need to be looked at for restoration or replacement or rebuilding or whatever. Same with me. I know. And it's, everything: board, bridges, strings, pins, pin block, that, onto the action, damper system, pedal system, you know. Are the legs shaking around? Do the legs need new fittings? You know, anything separated under the piano? Any of the ribs separated? Anything separated? Anything rattling? Anything? You know, action parts, wear. You know, if you've seen 50 pianos, you know what parts look like when they're old and a bit dried out. They just have a different look, different smell, different feel. You can tell, wow, these are old parts. And you can make them last. We all have and do. You can make them last. You can treat them with, Protec and kind of baby them through, repin, but eventually things have to be replaced. And that's it's just like a car or a washing machine. A piano is a machine, and you need to really bring that to your clients. It's a machine that needs maintenance. And I am the guy, man or woman, that will maintain this elegant machine for you. No problem. And I can restore it. So then you just develop friendships and business collegial relationships with the people in your area that I know that if you don't string, if you don't have a rebuilding shop, if you have just a little space in your house or in your basement where you bring actions and rework stuff, that's fantastic. God bless you. And you're not motivated to have a bigger shop or more, God bless you. You're just like me. I have never ever for 1 second wanted a big shop. That's not where I want to. It's not me. I want to be out at pianos. I want to have a little space. And then, as I got older and wiser, I just started allying myself with men and women in the community that are piano artisans that do love to have a shop and do love to do this heavy lifting stuff that I had no interest in.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Just to let people know that are watching on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to sign off of the live stream. We'll still remain here on Zoom. If you want to join, there's a link in the chat. And then I have a question for you about the details kind of building those relationships. Let me just sign us off real quick. I'll be right back. Or actually, the question is, does a relationship come first? Like, do you sort of get to know them first, or does a relationship start because you say, hey, I want you to work on this job, and then that's how the relationship begins?
In many times, that's how the relationship begins. And that's why you have to shift your state of being when you first talk to a client. Human beings are super perceptive, more than you know, especially unconsciously. And if they talk to you and there's internal brilliant human spidey senses that you're uptight or that you're short or that you're distracted or that you're someplace else, their whole being has a different perception of you than if you're grounded and centered and open and basically happy to be in that moment with them. That's where the relationship starts, man. And it doesn't matter if it's an old client, great. You've been able to, promote and strengthen that kind of trust-based relationship for a while if they're your client and you're doing your business right.
And I'm
They
also, just to
like you.
clarify, I'm not sure. I want to see if this is applying to the question I was more curious about is the outsourcing, right? The partners that you work with on the jobs, like someone
Oh,
like Dale Irwin. Is it like, did you
yes.
kind of know him for 5 years and you guys had a real good buddies, and then all of a sudden you start saying, hey, I need soundboards, why don't you work on them? Or does it kind of start with, okay, this piano needs a soundboard, let me find someone, I find Dale Irwin, and then he does a few, and then you've developed a relationship after the
Could
years?
be, well, for me, it's that I saw somebody's work. I heard it, I saw it, I felt it, I saw it, I heard it, I felt it. And it's like, wow, this is good, you know? And I also probably knew him, or I came to know him, certainly, if I thought their work was good. Other people, I've known. Geez, I've known Randy Morton for 35 years, but we started closely collaborating on rebuilding stuff on many of my team restoration projects. Um, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. And we've become just closer. He's somebody you can trust with the family jewels. And it's the same with every single person that I outsource business to. Key makers, refinishers, the guys that do my back ends. Um, we've when for a long time, David Andersen pianos did the entire action. Um, when Steve Bellew was with us, he was a fabulous action maker. Now we use other artisan full-time action makers, and then we do the final, as I said, the final really way offs and that precise regulation, and produce everything else. We're in control of every single other aspect of the piano and ordering the parts and kind of directing the work.
I got a question from David Skolnick. He said, under what circumstances might you engage Dale or whomever in any experiment? For example, scale or board installation, or not?
Oh, absolutely. Uh, Dale Irwin is the person who puts in soundboards for me. Dale Irwin has been the person that puts soundboards in for me for a long time, 15
And then I think the
years.
question too is, how much do you decide to do some experimenting with each piano in terms of the scale or the board? Oh, hey, we're gonna soup up the board, do this thing, or try this new thing with the scale design or something.
I work with Dale. Dale is a Dale is a creative artisan, man, and this is his. Just look, my bailiwick is that last regulation, tuning, and voicing. This is what I'm achieving mastery at. What Dale Irwin is achieving mastery at, because he does it all the time, day in, day out, is making great soundboards. That's what he's he's great at everything else, but this is something that he's like achieved mastery at or achieving mastery at. So why wouldn't I listen to his ideas? Why wouldn't I, you know, have his counsel? That's an incredibly important part of partnership and team restoration for me. I listen to everybody. You have to as a leader. But as a leader, then you have to know, nah, we're not going to do that. This is going to be a safer build. Nah, yes, whatever. It's your build. So take the advice and feedback and reflections of those artisans and, do what you think is best. But yes, I have the men and women I've worked with for a long time, basically. I don't
Do you ever get
have.
do you ever get clients who might be resistant? So what I'm imagining is it might be appealing to a client to approach them and say, "Hey, I'm working with this guy. He's a master with soundboards. You're kind of a liaison between him and the client, and you say he's got an idea here, or here's what he'd like to do." How deep do you even propose it to the client versus just doing it to make it good? Is it a selling point? And
Depends
would they
on,
object and
yeah,
say, "Hey,
yeah,
let's leave it how it is"? Yeah.
yeah. It depends completely on the client. Depends on my relationship with the client. If the client is artisan focused and understands that he's hired me because of my artisan focus and because of the way I approach this as a quality based, excellence based, thing, not a money based thing or da 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 da. That I manage to really know what I'm doing and gather people around me that really know what they're doing. And you can trust that. It's very simple, you know. And if you act and be like you are, which is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, you know, those, those, you know, classic human things, and you like what you're doing, you're good at what you're doing, people trust you. They just do. So again, I want to stress that it's technical. You have to know about how a piano works. And you have to get experience in all of these different. I have strung pianos. I have assisted in pulling out pin blocks and putting them in the first years of my career, and then in another period in the kind of mid-career. I've done pretty much everything in pianos, but I don't choose to do it now. And I haven't chosen to do a lot of it for a long time. I've chosen to focus on what I'm really good at and what I really love, which is that final 10, 15% of tweaking the action and the strings and the whole instrument into a thing of beauty,
It
making a
seems to
piano
me
sing.
to be, I mean, everybody's going to be different, but it seems like a nice career transition, right? If you've been tuning, a lot of the typical piano technician has been out there tuning in the field for years and years and years. You develop certain expertise about certain things, but most of your thing is going to be tuning, field repairs, regulation, things like
Yep.
that. But transitioning into saying, and I've been transitioning into that with various things in my life, is okay, I'm going to not try to be the best at this thing so that I can be the best at this part, and then have this relationship with the person who is the best at that thing. And I feel
That's
like that's kind of a
exactly.
nice thing to get into as you progress in your career, because you're probably going to focus more, and then that way you can let other people focus more, right?
100%. There are some people that are more kind of like, protean than I am. They're they're good at so many things having to do with pianos that they're kind of freaks. They're those special piano technicians, some of them, that are just know how to do so many things. Alex Kirsten comes to mind. He can build you a piano and he can be on the concert stage. That's super rare. Super rare. So you got to be honest with your own skills. What are you really good at? What do you really love to do? Why not do that if you can? If you can, why not do that? Why not focus and intend to do more of the work you love and get the skills, take the classes, call the mentors, get the help you need to make a piano sing like a tier one piano does. And then you'll make your own career, man. If you can restore, uh, a great amateur player's, Steinway long A from 1928 or 1929, and your client can perceive that it feels like a new piano and it sounds fantastic and you can hear all this nuance, and what does that do to your reputation when people play that piano? It's all just kind of Darwinian in a way. It's like he who has the most skills wins. It really is that way. So
I'm gonna transition to a question here from Nancy Salmon. It's been in the chat for a few minutes, so I want to grab it before we cut out. It's a good question. Have you lost customers to your teammates as the customer may want to deal directly with that expert?
Absolutely not. That's just an ethical understanding that you have to have before you start doing work with people. That line is inviolate, unless there's some kind of special circumstances where, that I can't really imagine right now. No, none of the artisans in my circle who may or may not have their own tuning and repair practice in addition to this specialty that they have or not, right? Taking a client is a huge no-no. That's deeply unethical. And nobody that I do business with would ever dream of doing that. Does that make sense?
I want to interject a little bit on a very nuanced
This
scale to
is
this.
this is okay.
So
I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
This has to be, when you're working in collaboration in a small team like this, for me, this has to be a trust-based relationship beyond transactional. Do you understand what I mean? Has to be. If you're going to go back to a person and deal with them, it has to be more than transactional. There has to be trust.
So the nuance I wanted to get into was kind of going back to what you were saying about it being Darwinian if you kind of have the skills, right? So in your mind, what's the difference between somebody becomes your client and they used to be somebody else's client, and it seems to you that it's just that they want to work with a better technician, versus versus you're kind of culling their favor and saying, hey, come on over here, you need to work with me. I'm sure that people have dealt with that kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like if somebody comes and they want to work with you, but a friend is working with them, decline? Is that something that you even have to deal with?
Oh, sure. I've dealt with that circumstance a couple of times. And um, I just tell them the truth. I know you've been working with such and such for years and years, and I'm not going to take you away from them. You know, let's get on a three-way call if you want to do that, and nobody ever wants to do that. Um, you know, I can't do that unless you tell me, or unless that person tells me that they're no longer your client and they're cool, and I'm not doing that.
I
I
like that
mean,
suggestion that you had of just having a conversation about it between all three people. I think in
well,
the piano
that's
industry, uh,
that's the best thing. Look, people are terrified to communicate. They're terrified of getting uncomfortable or being challenged, and so sometimes you just have to, as a leader, you have to break through that and be honest. Trust and truth is best. You know, you can make up all kinds of blah, woof, woof, and keep the curtain thrown over all the work. So much better to make everything transparent. That's why when you see my restoration agreements, every single job is on there, broken down, all the parts, everything. I charge plenty. And I don't know why piano technicians should be unlike any other servicemen, artisans, technicians in the world and not charge for the parts they put on pianos. Come on, guys. That's business 101. You're the professional, you're the artisan. They don't know what the hell to buy. This is not their business. Charge some money for putting the parts on the piano. Put a profit on the parts. Jeez, be business people. Come on. Come on. It's it's not ripping anybody off. That's a crazy story you have in your head. It's making the money you so richly deserve as an artisan that's had thousands, hundreds, or thousands of hours of practice and continuing education, and a willing heart. My God, what's that's worth? Get yourself paid. It's you know Most
we
people
got about
discover when they go in. Say it
we got
again.
about a minute left. We got a couple minutes left. I mean, we're at time, but just give me a moment for an
All right.
outro. You can wrap up if you want, or I can actually, while I have the floor, let me
I'm
just
just Yeah.
here.
Just let me
Go ahead.
say, I got on a rant. It felt good to me. I hope it was value for other people. Talking about, the way I see things. I love this community, and I just feel a tremendous impetus to give you guys the fruit of my wisdom over 40 odd years. Thanks.
Thank you, David. I think that was very, I mean, for me, like I said, I was taking notes. I thought that was very informative and appreciate you sharing the ins and outs and the details that I think more than a few people are curious about how that kind of thing works. Um, I just want to point out to people there's a link to sign up for the convention coming up here. There in the chat, it's clickable. There's two codes that you can use there. One is all capitals weekend 20, and the other one is cyberlearn. With the weekend 20, you get a discount over the weekend and onto Monday. That also applies on Monday. And with cyberlearn, you get a 10% discount on Monday, plus any lecture from our library and you'll get that for free. So you can peruse the library and say, oh, hey, I'd like to check that one out, and I'll put it in your member area. So please join us. We're growing. Like I said, we got a few sponsors now, and this is coming together. It's a lot of hard work, but I think it's going to be worth it. So without further ado, I'll sign us off. Any last words from you, David?
It's a continuing joy for us both. Ethan and I have talked about it. Continuing joy for us to provide this for you people, and for you people to provide us support and love and help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.